Dragonfruit by Makiia Lucier, Chapter 34. The animal keeper, Connemara, was never seen again. A boat was sent into the sleeping lady to bring him back to the village, but there was no sign of him there, and there was no sign of the dead sea dragon. No one could explain what had happened. But many months later, as Princess Oleana, Sam, and Honolly strolled through the gardens, the princess asked Honolly if she recalled the last meal they had shared together all those years ago. She had been testing young Hanali's knowledge of the various gods, like the trickster goddess, Kalama and Olafat, the father of all the sea gods, like his son, Taga, god of sea dragons. Over the last 1,000 years, Taga had been known by many other names, sometimes Hehu, sometimes Sarawal, and sometimes, though very rarely, Katamara, Hanali said, stopping in the middle of the wood pathway. Yes, Princess Oleana answered, a shoulder lifted. A coincidence, perhaps. Sam and Holly looked at one another. Do you think the gods still listen to us, Holly? He asked. Sometimes they do. Mostly they don't, I'm coming to realize. Sam had been wrong. 10 years of waiting. But they did listen. Not all of Captain Bragadin's dragoners perished in the sleeping lady. The ones at Chief Umair's supper had survived. VT's bite had not killed them, though they did suffer painful episodes for the rest of their lives, however long or short those lives were. They never faced judgment on Tamarind, which meant they did not have to answer for the kidnapping of 30 village children or the murder of the beloved royal marking. Instead, Queen Magalahi honored a request by the Esperanzan king through his ambassador. She turned the dragoners over to him. They would be shipped to Esperanza to answer for different crimes, the deaths of the king's mother and the youngest son. A harsh decision, perhaps, on her part. To punish the crew for a dead captain's crimes. Queen Magalahi cared little. She washed her hands of the anemone and everyone on it. Sam found Jajamar in the Pavilion of History and Song, where the memories were kept. The building sat on the far edge of the palace complex, separated from other offices by a copse of flame trees. The kingfishers were abundant today. They flitted from branch to branch, singing and chirping, delighting in the sunlight that broke through the tree cover. He climbed the front steps and went inside. A memory keeper worked at a front table, surrounded by great stacks of parchment and sound catchers. Mara was one of the newer archivists, having taken over from her grandfather. She glanced up when Sam entered, her expression puzzled. Where did you go? I didn't even see you leave. Sam did not answer, and Mara's eyes widened. She looked behind her, where an identical figure sat at the very back table. He had set his work aside the moment Sam walked in. The memory keeper scrambled to her feet and bowed. Prince Samati, apologies. No need. It's strange for all of us. How's your grandfather? Bored, Mara replied promptly with a laugh, and trying to steal this position back from me. He's not used to all the free hours. Her grandfather had been one of his tutors. Sam had spent much of his boyhood in this pavilion. Tell him I'll stop by to see him tomorrow. We'll see what we can do with some of those hours. Mara's smile grew. I'll tell him. Thank you. Grandfather will be pleased. Another glance behind her. It's my turn to feed the birds. Excuse me. Another bow. She took a small bowl off a shelf and left. Sam walked past rows of parchment-covered tables to the back of the pavilion. Jajamar got to his feet. He wore a sand-colored robe without sleeves, a belt made of coconut thread looped around his middle. He wore Sam's face. Jajamar spoke first. How do you do that? What? She laughed. Jajamar gestured behind Sam to the door. All she does is scowl at me. I'm nice. It's simple. Jajamar snorted. He flopped back onto his chair. What are you doing here? Sam took the chair opposite his cousin. Jajamar was copying text from limp, stuck-together parchment onto fresh, dry sheets. It was the nature of record keeping in the Nomi Nomi. The entire collection had to be copied every few years or risk succumbing to the heat and damp. So this is where Lord Eastco put you, Sam said. Do you hate it? No, Jajamar said, surprising him. I thought I would, but this place... Here, look at this. Beside the desk was a chest, about 6 feet long. Jajamar opened the lid, revealing hundreds of sound catchers in every condition. Polished, scratched, carved, plain. The wood appeared very old. Jajamar reached for one and blew into it. A single quick breath. He placed it on the table. A girl's voice emerged. My name is Magalaha Hanali. My name is Magala Hainali of the Kingdom of Tamarind. On this day, my 10th naming day, I do pay homage to my mother and queen, Samati Natamahenele. Smiling a little, Sam listened to his grandmother's younger self. He had forgotten about this particular sound catcher. At the end of her pledge, it fell silent. Jajamar said, I didn't know you were named for your great-grandmother. There were lots of things I didn't know. He returned the sound catcher to the trunk. Anyway, there are worse places to be, considering. Sam had not known what to expect coming here. He had not seen Jajamar in months. Unpleasant was too mild a word to describe their last meeting. Jajamar weeping, Jajamar wearing his face. Do you ever leave here? Jajamar shrugged. Sometimes, at night. I tried during the day, but it's strange. Where do you sleep? There's a pavilion out back. Jajamar straightened some parchment, not meeting his eye. How's your mother? Weak, Sam said. Confused sometimes, which is how I would be if I were in her place. But it's hard to watch. That isn't what I heard, Jajamar said, troubled. Everyone is saying she's doing well, almost back to her old self. We've kept it in the family mostly. She needs quiet for a little while longer. Sam, I'm sorry, Jajamar looked down. I'm glad you still consider me family. We don't get to choose, Jajamar. No, I know. From outside came the sound of Mara's laughter and birdsong. Sam said, Your mother left the city yesterday. She went back to the mountains. Hurt flashed across Jajamar's eyes. She didn't tell me. When did you last see her? A few months ago. She took one look and screamed, told me to get out. She said I humiliated her, cost her friends and the Queen's favor. Aunt Chessa had never had the Queen's favor, but there was no need to say that. Jajamar knew. Sam stood. I want to show you something. Let's go. Where? Jajamar asked. Where? Jajamar asked, rising. It's easier to show you. I want to test a theory. You sound like Honolly. Sam smiled. It's her theory. He twirled a finger at Jajamar's robes. This won't work. We're going to the beach. They rode through the heart of the city, twin princes on their candayos, garnering stares and double stares along the way. One man dropped a basket full of mangoes. They rolled on down the street, fruit everywhere. Jajamar had offered to wear a hood, but Sam had refused. His cousin could not hide beneath a hood forever. They would have to find a way to live with it. From the city, they entered the jungle pathway, shadowy but brief, and emerged on an isolated beach. High above was the cliff where he had first spotted Honolly on the deck of the Anemone. She was waiting for them at the water's edge, and she wasn't alone. Whoa! Jajamar breathed, and Sam laughed. His cousin would have heard of Honolly's marking. Everyone had. Seeing her was something else entirely. The sea dragon stretched along the shallows, her tail slapping at the waves. Her scales were the palest pink, and they shimmered in the afternoon sun. Honolly stood by the dragon's white frill. She wore a green dress, her hair loose in the wind. Sam smiled at the sight of her. Hello, Jajamar, Honolly said. She won't hurt you. Don't worry. Jajamar kept Sam between the dragon and himself. Hello, Honolly. Are you sure? Whoa, he said again as Honolly leaned against the sea dragon, while the dragon remained as a fully formed animal. Tattooed scales moved along Honolly's skin, over her face and down her neck, along one arm. Your marking is the best marking. The sea dragon's ears perked up and Honolly laughed. Thank you. The only thing she loves more than food is flattery. What's her name? Nomi, Sam said. The sea dragon shook her frill in acknowledgement. Climb on up. Mind her scales, though. They're sharp. Climb? No. Jajamar backed away, kicking up sand. I'm fine where I am. Jajamar, she's why we're here. We're going for a ride. Sam went up to Honolly and said close to her ear, Do you really think this will work? I hope it will, for his sake. Jajamar said, Going where? And why? And what is this theory you're talking about? Sam heard the suspicion in his cousin's voice. So did Honolly, who said crisply, Follow me up. Sam isn't going to take you to the deep and push you in. I know that's what you're thinking. It isn't, Jajamar muttered as he walked past Sam and followed Honolly up onto the sea dragon, stepping lightly along tail and body until they reached her frill. Sam followed. He saw Honolly studying Jajamar's face closely. You even have the same scar on your neck, she marveled. Your teeth are the same. Jajamar ducked his head. He slapped a hand over the scar. It's disturbing, I know. A little, Holly admitted. I'll get used to it. She turned back to the sea dragon, instructing Jajamar. Sit here. You can hold on to her frill, but don't yank. You'll only upset her. Jajamar straddled the dragon and held the frill gingerly in his hands. What happens if she gets upset? Just don't yank. Honolly retraced her steps, took the hand Sam offered, and hopped barefoot onto the sand. She waved a cheery goodbye. Nomi moved carefully, entering the shallows fully and then flicking her tail up in a single splash. Sam remained standing. He raised a hand in farewell to Honolly, then turned his attention fully to his cousin. Jajamar began the journey with his knees pressed into the dragon scale and his eyes clenched shut. Naomi swam so that her upper half remained above the surface. With the exception of his sandals and feet, Jejomar remained dry. Gradually, his knees relaxed. His eyes opened a little, and then all the way. The water was changing beneath them, clear at the shallows, now a pale blue, now a deep green. When the sea turned midnight and they drew up to a large rock that protruded from the sea, Sam asked Nomi to stop. Jejomar rose, arms outstretched for balance, and turned to face Sam, who saw at once that Hanali's theory was correct. What? Jejomar said, seeing his expression. What? Sam said, when we were children, I gave Hanali a sound catcher. She never took it off, not even when she left Tamarin. It was useless off island, but when she came home, it worked perfectly. Jejomar was listening, trying to understand. The egg you took, Jejomar, was laid here on Tamarin, which made it a part of this island subject to its rules. Jejomar looked around. This is the boundary rock. It is. Look at your reflection, cousin. Jejomar peered over Nomi's side into the water. He gasped, arms flailing. He would have fallen in if Sam had not grabbed the back of his tunic and held on. Sam looked over the side as well. Their reflections gazed back at them, two very different faces, their own. Magic doesn't work off island, Sam said. That is the rule. Jejomar clutched his face, his hair. He stared wide-eyed at Sam, and then he turned and looking over the other side. Two identical faces peered back. Jejomar lowered himself onto Nomi's back. I never thought I'd see me again. Sam crouched beside him. I brought you here to see if... He waved at the water, the boundary rock, and to offer a chance, if you wish it. What chance? The ambassador of Raqqa has sent an invitation. He would like you to accompany his brother William, who is determined to visit every island in the Nomi Nomi. The ambassador doesn't have the time to do it himself. He has his employment and his sister to look after. But he also doesn't wish to have William travel alone. You know how William is. Jejomar looked worried. He gets distracted easily, and he doesn't prepare. He'll get lost or kidnapped, or he'll die of sunstroke. My fears, too. So what are you saying? I would be a companion? His servant? No, Sam said firmly. William has asked for you specifically. You would go as his friend. But you would also go as a representative of this island, of this family, and you would be compensated for it. Sam saw the moment excitement turned into something else. You're trying to get rid of me, Jejomar said. Jejomar, I'm not. Then why would you make this offer? Jejomar asked bitterly. And after what I did, why would you want me to represent your family? Jejomar lowered his head to his chin, but Sam still saw the tears. Nomi turned her head slightly, distressed. Her frill fluttered about, wrapping around Jejomar like a hug. He held on to it, lightly though. He did not yank. Sam said, I hope that the foolish things we do when we're 16, 17, 20, whenever, I hope they don't define who we are forever. He swallowed past the lump in his throat. I hope that many years from now you still want to be just like me. I'm not trying to get rid of you, cousin. This is a chance. What you do with it is your decision alone. It was quiet there for a time, until Jejomar said, If I go, will I be able to come home? Sam was startled. It had never occurred to him that Jejomar would feel otherwise, that he would have to ask. And then he remembered Hanali, returning home and feeling that she had no right to be there. Sam said, I've moved back into the pavilion. You know where it is. You have a key. There will always be a home for you there. No matter what I look like? No matter. Jejomar wiped his tears away. He patted the frill and got to his feet. Carefully looking over one side and then the other, he smiled. I want to go. 50 captive sea dragons. How did one go about releasing them? Very carefully, it turned out, and not all at once. Hanali and Sam set them free in groups of threes and twos. It was a small enough number for Nomi to guide them to the boundary rock and for them to make their way into the wider sea. Only one dragon refused to go. She was older and purple, and once, years ago, Hanali's father had stolen away with her dragonfruit. Hanali kept her in the menagerie, visited often by Nomi, for many years until the sea dragon breathed her last. Chapter 35. Sam walked arm in arm with his mother along Tamarin's shore. Their walks were frequent because she wished to regain her strength, but of short duration for she tired easily. Today they needed only to reach a small pavilion beneath the coconut trees where his grandmother waited for them. His mother wore a red dress and a leafy crown, which relieved Sam immensely. For years it had been nothing but nightgowns, all day, all night. Clothing for the sick. The only jewelry she wore was a gold ring carved with the image of a fruit bat. You are thinking sad thoughts again, Samati, I can tell, he said. He was. I'm sorry I couldn't keep him safe for you. He still woke in the mornings and looked at his arms, expecting to see fur and wings. There was never anything there except for him, sorrow, and loss. You have said you have said so many times. You must stop, my darling. She squeezed his arm. Fetu first came to me when I was 16 years old. The same day I received my first kiss from your father. Did I ever tell you that? Sam smiled. I didn't know about the kiss. He interrupted our kiss, terrified both of us. To tell the truth, his mother remembered with a laugh. I miss my friend. I miss your father. I will miss you. Sam stopped. What do you mean? Where are you going? Not I, Samati. You. They had reached the pavilion, open on all sides. Liko and Bayani stood guard by the steps. Servants busied themselves around tables laden with food and drink. His grandmother was there with Uncle Isco and Hanali, admiring an enormous map that had been placed on the floor, at least 8 feet in length, its corners held down by large seashells. A lavishly painted map, not only of the Nomi Nomi but of the far reaching world. Tamarind in the far west, Langland and Esperanza in the east, hundreds of kingdoms and colonies in between. Hanali knelt opposite Uncle Isco, placing carved wooden canoes on the map, each the length of a hand. She looked over at Sam and smiled. She wore a long green skirt and white blouse, her shoulders bare. A cheerful lei hung from her neck, yellow and white plumeria. Instead of a bracelet, a tattooed sea dragon coiled around her slender wrist. I forgot all about this map, Uncle. Sam led his mother to the floor pillow, then went around to kneel beside Hanali. When was it commissioned? A year ago? Nearly, Uncle Isco said, and well worth the wait. His gaze flicked to Sam's mother. You look peaked. I feel fine. Nevertheless, perhaps you should not walk so far. You are not an invalid, Isco, Sam's mother finished, a snap to her voice. It was a tone she only ever used with him, never Sam or Hanali, and never the Queen. Stop treating me like one. I'm not made of glass. Sea glass, maybe. Uncle Isco held up a hand and sighed. Choose, Ollie. Do I watch every word or speak as I always have? It's difficult to do both. Sam and Hanali exchanged a look. They edged closer to one another, away from the crossfire. His mother's ire faded. As always, sorry, Isco. Don't be, love. It will take time. Sam shot another glance at Hanali, whose eyes had grown round. Love? She mouthed. Isco, Ali, his grandmother said mildly, you are making the children uncomfortable. Tell me about this map. Yes, Your Grace. Uncle Isco rose with ease. His leg had healed completely. Sam had been with him when he had flung his walking stick into the fire. We're altering our route slightly to accommodate 3 additional ports. He pointed. There, and there. 3, his grandmother said, pleased. Excellent. When will the ships depart? 2 months from now, Uncle Isco said. That should give Samonti time to prepare. Sam had been watching Hanali's marking. Instead of staying put, Nomi had begun to coil around Hanali's wrist playfully, which usually meant she wished to go out into the water. His head came up when he heard his name. Prepare? For what? Hanali had been leaning over to place another canoe on the map. She stopped. Is Sam going somewhere? Uncle turned to Sam's mother, who said apologetically, I meant to tell him. I simply forgot. It was not just her physical strength that needed to grow stronger. She drifted off frequently, lost in thought, often in the middle of a conversation. The healers had said to give her time, but it worried Sam, and he knew it worried his grandmother. His grandmother reached out and brushed his mother's cheek. Our spice ship departs in 2 months' time, she said. Every Tamarindi prince and princess has accompanied our fleet at least once. Before you were born, your mother traveled every year. It is an opportunity to see the rest of the world and to maintain the alliances that benefit Tamarind. Every prince has gone, Samatitama, except you. Sam said, I was needed here. You were indeed, his grandmother said. You still are. You have been a comfort and a joy to me these last 10 years in particular, and if, perhaps, I have kept you a little too long by my side, well, she brushed at her skirts, I don't regret it, and I would never admit it if I did, his mother said. You will be seeing the distribution of our spices at markets around the Nomi Nomi, Langland, and Esperanza. 2 months will give you time to consult with our spice masters and the harbor masters, with any master that needs consulting, really. Anticipation filled him, along with dreams long buried. Sam looked at the map again. It's a 6-month journey. 8, I think, with the added ports. He looked to Uncle Isco for confirmation. More like 9, his uncle said. Sam looked at Hanali, who smiled gamely and said, Where is that list of yours, Sam? You'll have to dust it off. Sam's excitement dimmed. 9 months. It's a long time away, Hannah. From her. His mother reached over and squeezed Hanali's hand. Hana has asked to return to Rakakala for a time. You will escort her there, and we will arrange for her passage home when the time comes. Sam felt his stomach drop. Hana had not mentioned going away. What is in Raka? My father, Holly said. He was buried in an unmarked grave, but I know where it is. I know the exact spot. I need to bring him home. The ambassador has promised to help. Rosamy has too. She's there visiting. Here she hesitated. My old teachers have sent me a letter. They have asked if I would return to help with the school. Not for forever, just until they can find others to take over. I'll be home before you, most likely. It's good you're making these friends, Uncle Isco commented. They may be useful one day. That isn't why we made them, Uncle, Holly said. Nevertheless. Sam was beginning to understand how Jajamar must have felt. Are you trying to get rid of us? How did you guess? His mother smiled. She reached for a canoe and placed it in the middle of the Nomi Nomi. She spun it with a finger. When the boat stopped, it pointed north. There's a saying my mother shared with me long ago before my first voyage. Do you remember, Mamma? His grandmother patted Viti, who had settled on her shoulder. To the adored child, send them on journeys. I remember. You are adored, the both of you, his mother said, looking first at Sam, then Honolly. When you return, Tamarind will be waiting. You're afraid I won't come back. Honolly sat before him on her sea dragon, her back pressed against his chest, against his beating heart. It was just the two of them now, and Nomi, who carried them along calm waters. A hibiscus moon settled high among the stars. Beneath the surface of the water, a pale blue glow drifted upward from the sand and coral. There was light all around them. Sam tightened his arms around her. He was terrified she would not return. I'm not afraid, he said. Honolly turned to look at him. Maybe a little, he conceded. Why? Because she had gone before. How long does it take you to come home? Did it take you to come home last time? 10 years. And that was different, Sam. You didn't ask for an answer that made sense. Just an answer. Connolly rose and twisted around to sit cross-legged before him. Sam studied her face, one he would not see for 9 long months. I'm scared you won't come back too, she said, surprising him. Why wouldn't I? Many reasons. Hanley raised a hand and ticked off her fingers as she spoke. A shipwreck? A shark attack? A kidnapping? You could be hit in the head and forget who you are? Sam's lips curved. You think I'll get amnesia? Don't laugh. It's happened to others. She ticked off another finger. Malaria? Please, not that. Sam took her fingers and kissed them. Are you trying to frighten me into staying? No. Hanley's expression turned serious. I want you to go. You deserve to go, but I'll worry and I'll miss you. She tilted her head, studying him curiously. Why are you afraid? Sam raised a hand, ticked off his own list. A shipwreck, a shark attack, a handsome sea dragon scholar. Holly dissolved into laughter. Nomi lifted her tail and slapped it into the water, spraying them. Sam wiped seawater from his face. You're going back to that school. It's possible. There are no handsome sea dragon scholars on Raka, believe me. Honolly covered his hand with hers. I need to bring my father home, but the reason I agreed to return to the school, for a little while at least, is because I'd like to start one of my own. Sam should not have been surprised. On Tamarind? Where else? This is my home. How does one start a school of that sort? I don't have the slightest idea, she confessed. I'm going to find out. Uncle Isco has promised to help. Your mother, too. It will be good for her. Do you think my mother... He trailed off, not wishing to put his fears into real words, spoken aloud. He did not have to. Connolly understood. She's the strongest woman I know, and she has defied every odd, and you are the one person who believed in her those last 10 years. You should not stop believing. Sam was quiet. Sometimes it hurt him to look at her and know how closely they had come to missing one another. He should not have been on that cliff that night. She should not have been anywhere near this island. He said, Tell me about this school of yours. Since you asked, Hanali rubbed her hands together in the manner of an old tutor. We live right here in the Nomi Nomi, and there's still so much we don't know. Not just about sea dragons, but about everything. The other sea animals, the caves and trenches, the ruins we sometimes see beneath the water. I have sailed over entire cities. Think of the possibilities, Sam. It is a lifetime's work. I'll help. Hanali smiled. She would have kissed him, and he would have let her. But Nomi spotted a bird. Laughing, they held on tight to the sea dragon to one another as she raced across the open sea. The end.